So one of the things that I'm going to tackle today is the ultrasonic and which cleaner to use and how do I test it. One of the things that I'm going to start is figure out how many gallons this holds, because all of my enzymatic cleaners tell me either 1 ounce or 1 tablet per gallon. So I'm going to start by figuring out how many gallons go into this ultrasonic. And I have 2 options for my enzymatic cleaner. I have this gallon here with a pump, and then I also have this little pod. And it's almost like what you would put in your dishwasher, which is pretty cool. I got this in my starter kit from Henry Schein. They had an infection control starter kit that comes from Hugh Freedy, and so they sent that, and you can order it straight from Henry Schein, and it'll give you a bunch of different options, so you can decide which works better for your clinic. So we're gonna decide, do we prefer just tossing a little packet already done for us, or do we want to get something that we could just pump straight into that? But obviously we're going to start by making sure we know how many gallons of water will go into that, and then also we're going to test it doing the tinfoil test. The tinfoil test is super easy, very inexpensive. We want to make sure that the entire ultrasonic is working, because sometimes we hear it going and we think it's doing its job, but maybe one side is working and the other side is actually not working. So when you use the tinfoil, you just drop it in there, you hold it for about 30 seconds, I hear up to a minute, and then you pull it out and you make sure that it's pitted all along the entire piece of tinfoil. I've done it in the past where it was just like a little square that we threw in there and it bounced around, but we really don't want it to sit against the edges. So I'm going to actually talk to my manufacturer of my ultrasonic and see what they recommend, if they recommend a certain length of tinfoil, or even if they recommend the tinfoil test. But it is a very easy, inexpensive way to make sure that your ultrasonic is working, because the enzymatic cleaner is going to be what breaks up that bioburden and gets all that gunk off of our instruments. And so if we're putting all the right stuff in there and it's only, half jiggling, that's not going to serve us very well. Also, when we are using the enzymatic cleaner, we want to make sure that we do follow the instructions for use, because if we're not putting enough in there, it's just not going to work for us. So if you're pulling out your instruments and you feel like you're always having to scrub them, you might need to think about how much you're putting in there. Are you putting the right ratio? And also, is your unit working properly? The other thing is, are you running your instruments long enough? That is you can't just run in here and just turn it on for 5 minutes. There's a specific amount of time that you're going to need to run your instruments for, and I would consult your enzymatic cleaner instructions for use to see if there's anything that says or recommendations for that, and also what your ultrasonic manufacturer's instructions for use say. And I know that feels like a cop-out sometimes, because you'll hear a lot of people that speak on infection control say instructions for use, and it's like, ugh, I want the answer, but the answer really is in your instructions for use. Everything is different, so you're gonna be everyone's working around me while I do this, but you got to make sure that you are following your instructions for use. It's such a big and important piece to the puzzle. So the other thing I will say is I printed out my MSDS sheets and the instructions for use. So I'm going to put this in a spot that is super easy to grab. I will be very honest, as I was a newbie in dentistry and was learning about infection control, and even in hygiene school, they said, get your MSDS sheets out, or SDS sheets. They've kind of changed to just safety data sheets, SDS. I honestly, all I did, I got it, if it came with my package, or I printed it out and I put it in my binder, and that's all I did, because that's what I was told to do, and that's all I did. Now that I'm learning a little bit more about the chemicals that we're using and how important the instructions for use are, some of the things that I'm looking at are the EPA signal warnings, or signal labels. So they'll say caution, warning, and danger. So if you're working with warning and danger, we really want to be mindful of the first aid that might be needed if this were to splash into my eyes, if we were to breathe it in, if it got on my skin. And this is just another reason why it's so important to wear the right personal protective equipment when you're doing not just patient care, but also anytime you're handling chemicals. So this particular one says danger. It says danger. So if this were to splash into my face, splash into my eyes, get on my skin, that's a big concern. So I'm gonna make sure that I wear all the proper PPE, so goggles, a mask. I'm gonna wear my utility gloves anytime I'm in sterilization. And I'm gonna also wear my lab jackets with the cuffs, so if it does splash up onto me, it's not going to get on my skin. But this is such an important thing to keep in mind, because this says causes skin irritation, serious eye damage, and may cause allergy or asthma symptoms if we're breathing it in. So we don't want to run our ultrasonic with the lid off. We also don't want to get it ready in the morning without wearing our proper eyewear, because I'll tell you, one of the things that I've done in my life as a hygienist and dental professional is splash this stuff into my face. 100% have done it. I think a lot of people are guilty of that. I was not wearing the proper PPE, and I've learned my lesson the hard way, unfortunately. So just some key takeaways from this. I'm going to make sure that I know exactly how much water to put into my ultrasonic. I want to know how big it is. I am going to read the instructions for use and know that if it's takes X amount of ounces per gallon. I'm also going to see if it recommends that I run it for a certain amount of time. The cool thing about this stuff is that it actually can be used as a pre-soak. It can be used as an ultrasonic cleaner, and also for your evacuation lines, which I did not realize was something that you could do. So read the instructions for use, make sure you're following those, print out your SDS or your safety data sheets, and just get to know your instructions for use for not only your enzymatic cleaner, but also your ultrasonic. Best of luck. Don't forget that tinfoil test.